If you're wasting lots of time on aquarium maintenance, this video is for you. I'll go over 5 tips you can start applying today to make the best of your maintenance routine and to make this hobby much more enjoyable for you. If that sounds like an appealing idea, let's get right to it. Water changes are important and very beneficial, but they do have a few downsides. A big one is that if you do 50% water change once a week, your fish have to adapt to that new water all at once. It can be a shock to their system, and over time, it isn't great for their health. This is why some people do water changes twice a week, to keep the amount of change smaller at any one time. But then, you have to set up your whole water change system twice. Even doing it once is a lot of work. I've been using something in my tanks recently that has been amazing. A drip water change system that is always working. The idea is to adjust the drip count so that you are effectively changing 50% of your water slowly throughout the entire week. You can connect the water coming in to an RO system or even your tap water if it doesn't have any chlorine. For the water coming out, you can direct it outside or to a drain if you have one nearby. If you don't have a drain close by and you don't want to drill a hole in your wall to run a hose outside, you can use a bucket with a submersible pump. You just connect the pump to a flow sensor that turns it on once the water in the bucket reaches a certain level. Then you run a hose from that pump to wherever you want. You can even run it through your attic and into the gutters. The drain hose from the tank drips into the bucket, and once it's full, the pump automatically clears it out. There are many ways to do this, but keep in mind that for this specific method, you usually have to drill a hole near the top of your tank so the water flows out naturally once it reaches that level. Because of that, I don't recommend this if you have a very expensive tank. I'm sure there are other ways to drain the water without drilling. If you know another method, let me know in the comments. Algae and maintenance are tightly related. An aquarium with algae problems is a maintenance nightmare. I want to share something that happened to me when I was still new to this hobby, because I don't think I'm the only one who went through this. Maybe you're going through it right now. I did a bunch of research on how to avoid algae, but I didn't really go deep into how to deal with it once it's actually in your tank. I figured if I did everything the right way to avoid it, I wouldn't even have to worry about it, because it would never show up. But you will face algae, maybe not in your first couple of months, or maybe you'll get really lucky and not even on your first tank, but you will face it eventually, and I sure did. Since I didn't know how to deal with it or keep it under control, I ended up just having to remove it manually. That was a lot of work. It became a permanent part of my maintenance routine, and I dealt with that for months. Don't do the same. Even if you are already dealing with algae problems, don't make it part of your maintenance routine. It is a lot of unnecessary work. Take the time to understand algae and learn how to control it to the point that it is invisible, even if it's technically still there. I have plenty of videos on how to identify algae types and how to fix them, so go check those out when you're done with this video. But I'll give you just one piece of advice that solves 80% of my algae problems. Lower your aquarium's temperature. If your water is over 76 degrees Fahrenheit, just lowering it to 75 or 74 will do wonders. If you're enjoying the video, remember to like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow and get to more people who loves this hobby. Most people choose fish based only on how they look and their water parameters. But if you want to stop wasting time on maintenance, you should pay attention to something else too, and that's the size of the fish. I don't mean just choosing the right size for your tank. You should always do that. What I mean is that even if you have a big aquarium, remember that a big fish means more maintenance. I don't want to tell you that you shouldn't keep big fish. Big fish are beautiful, but you have to accept the reality that a large fish creates a lot of waste. When you keep nanofish, the waste is so small that it falls through the gravel or soil where you can't even see it. Eventually, it breaks down completely, which means most of the time you won't even have to vacuum your substrate. If you use aqua soil, this is even more true. I personally never have to vacuum my soil, but that is only possible because I keep small fish. If you have big fish, the waste just sits on top because there is too much of it. And then you have to vacuum it out, which is a lot of extra work. If you do find yourself needing to vacuum your substrate, you can always use my aquarium vacuum. It's designed to let you clean without removing any water from the tank, and that vacuum is 20% off right now, but only until April 30th. So check the link in the description if you need one. If your lily pipes are dirty, you scrub them. If your diffuser is dirty, you scrub your skimmer, your rocks, your hoses. We do a lot of scrubbing in this hobby. So let me save you some of that effort. During your next maintenance routine, before you even start, grab a bucket, fill it with water, and add some bleach. It needs to be a specific type. Avoid the unscented or low splash versions, as those have added chemicals and are much weaker. Get the one labeled disinfecting bleach. That's the good stuff. Take your lily pipes, diffuser, or skimmer and let them sit completely submerged inside that bucket. Now you can go ahead and start your maintenance, whether it's trimming, doing a water change, or cleaning your filter. After about 10 to 15 minutes, you'll see all the algae and dirt are completely gone from the items in the bucket. Throw away the bleach water, rinse your equipment, and put it back in that same bucket, this time with water and a dechlorinator, the same one you use to make your tap water safe. Leave it in there for another 15 to 20 minutes and then give it a final rinse. The whole process takes about 30 to 40 minutes, but you don't have to physically do anything. You can be doing anything else while the bleach does the scrubbing for you. It saves a lot of time and effort. A maintenance emergency can happen to anyone at any point. It doesn't matter how careful you are. Things can still go wrong. In my case, I've had canister filters start leaking right after cleaning them. I've broken glass diffusers while trying to disconnect the tubing. I've even gotten hurt doing that. But the point is that your equipment can and will fail. If you aren't prepared, it can cost you huge amounts of time trying to stop a leak or figuring out how to get water back into the tank because you broke a lily pipe. My solution is to always have a spare. This doesn't mean you need two of everything. This hobby is expensive enough as it is. What I do is keep a spare that functions the same but is of lesser quality. For example, I always have a plastic CO2 diffuser on hand. I prefer the glass ones because they look nicer, but if the glass one breaks, I can use the plastic one until I get a replacement. The same applies to lily pipes. You can easily DIY a temporary one using a plastic bottle or gravel vacuum attachments. Even for your filtration, if you always keep a cycled sponge filter running in one of your tanks, you have a backup. If your canister filter fails during maintenance, you can swap in that sponge filter. It's smaller, but it provides enough biological filtration to keep your aquarium from crashing. Having a spare, even if it's a cheap or DIY version, can save your tank and your time in an emergency. If you focus on these 5 areas, you'll stop wasting time on maintenance and only doing what's really necessary. Let me know in the comments if you have any tips of your own that save you time on aquarium maintenance.